Time to cut down the old garden. No turning tray means lockdown. So while we're mowing down the old garden, we've got lots of new plant starts downstairs and chicks are popping in our incubator. We're taking another big step with our goat herd, guys. We are doing our first milk test. So last night I separated all of my kids from their dams. I milked out their dams and we waited 12 hours. So I milked out last night around 6. It's now 6-ish in the morning and I'm going to be milking my girls out, taking weights on their milk, recording that information, and then putting a little bit of the sample of milk from this morning in these test tubes. I will be milking them out again tonight and filling up the other half of the tube with their milk from this evening so that we can get a good read on what their milk was this morning along with its weight and what the milk's going to be this evening along with its weight. Since we're milk testing, that means that everybody has to be on a bottle. It's good though because it's helping them bond with me, even though I had some trouble with Chicken Hawk in the beginning. Chalky just really didn't want to take a bottle, but she's gotten hungry enough now. This is our first year, so this is a lot of growing pains. This is stuff we're just not really used to, but I feel like we're doing a pretty good job and the kids seem like they're adapting well. And I'm just really happy to be able to get them all in the bottle, and I will be happy when we're done with milk testing later today. Nice, I'll be back in about 2 hours for the joys of milk testing. Are you done? I'll take that as a yes. Little Mr. Eber, doing so good on the bottle during milk test. So it's their mommy's milk. They're not getting any type of replacer while they're on milk test. I literally milk out their moms, put their milk in the freezer and use it to bottle feed them until they're at a point where they kind of don't need it and they can be separated. And then it's all ours. Okay, here you go. That's right. So it's the second part of the day for our milk testing. So you guys can see, I didn't really go over a whole lot of it this morning just because I was really tired, but I have my milk pail set up here for weighing and I got my scale from the Indian, and you guys can see here, it's very official on the side. So ISDA, which means that they calibrated this scale so that I can actually use it to turn in my milk testing because I think I'm doing the OS 40. So the milk test that I'm partaking in is only to see if I can get them to their milk star, which means I get to do all of this testing and I don't have to have like a supervisor or anybody that's certified except for one time. I need one verification test so that if my girls do reach the ability to get their star, oh, chickens, get out of here. Bunch of ragamuffins, get out. So I'm only technically going to be testing these guys until I know they're going to have a star. Now there is 2 different types of star. There's an AR star and there's an ST star. And AR stands for Advanced Registry, I believe. So and I think the minimum for that is like, you have to milk like at least 240 days. So 240 days is actually like 8 months of the year. There are a lot of different milk tests. I don't know the ins and outs of all of them. I'm hoping at some point I will know a lot about them, but since this is my first year milk testing, I don't know a whole lot. I just know that I'm going to be going for just milk stars. I'm not going for advanced registry stars this year. Now, if I have girls that seem like they're doing really, really well this year and that even get their stars, I will probably continue to milk test next year and possibly try to go for AR stars. And advanced registry stars paired with good linear appraisal, I think can put you in for superior genetics. I don't know. If you know, correct me down in the comments below. I'm trying to learn this stuff. I'm trying to learn the lingo, but I'm a little slow at it. So we actually are getting ready to bring our 2 girls in. We only have 2 girls that are in milk right now that meet the requirements. They have to be in milk for at least 5 days before they can be tested. If they're on day 3, they shouldn't be tested because there will be residual colostrum in their milk and that will throw off the readings. So you guys can see, and this is for when I get a little bit more busy. I only have 2 right now, so I'm just hand milking. So I've got my scale over here. I've got my nice jar that I will be using to store extra milk. Got my pot that I will be milking into. I'm writing down all of my information here. So I'm writing down the times that I'm milking, who I am milking, how much that their milk weighs. And I've also got their tests from this morning. They're filled halfway up, half from this morning's milking and half from this evening's milking. And I know that the babies behind me in the nursery are going to be so happy when I'm done with this, because they've been separated for 24 hours so that I can get a real feel on these girls, so that when I milk them out, I'm actually getting the capacity that I should be. So right now, the way that we do our milking here is we're doing kid sharing. I know there are a lot of dairy farms out there that they don't do kid sharing. They separate at birth, and that is totally fine. And who knows, we might even migrate to that depending on how serious we get with developing our Nigerian dwarf genetics and how involved we get with performance programs. But for right now, we do kid sharing. So I let the dams have their babies. I let them nurse their babies. I only take them away for milk testing and when it's time to wean. The benefits of actually kid sharing is that when I don't feel like milking, I can leave the kid on for a night. So if I know somewhere down the line, if I don't want to separate them at night so that I can milk them out in the morning and milk them out in the evening, then I can just leave the kid with them and the kid will take care of it so that my girls don't get overburdened with milk, because you do have some of these dairy lines that they can produce a lot of milk. So much so that if you don't relieve the pressure and you don't milk them on a routine basis, they can develop mastitis, they can blow their udders, it can be very, very uncomfortable for them. So that's one of the benefits of kid sharing, whereas I'm not 100% tied down. I'm still pretty tied down, but not as much as that if I actually separated my kids. Oh, get out of here, chicken. Get out of here, chicken. Okay, I'm gonna shut up now and bring the does in. The reason we're milk testing besides the star is it's really good to have this data on your girls. It's really good to know how much butterfat they're producing, how many somatic cells were in their milk, to get all this extra data to see what it is that they're producing, if their production meets the requirements to stay in your herd. Because like I said before, now that we're getting to the point where we have so many goats and we're doing this, to keep a good dairy goat fleshed out and producing, it requires a lot of feed. And with the cost rising on feed and having to feed these does more so than I would my juniors or my non-lactating does, I really don't have the ability to keep girls that aren't going to produce in the pail. Not just because, like, you know, we're trying to better the breed, but really these guys are producing our milk. When they start to come into milk, we no longer buy from the store. And with food costs rising and food shortages that look like they might be on the horizon, then it's really important to me to have food security. And milk isn't just milk. Milk is yogurt, milk is cheese, milk is butter. Milk can be put into so many different recipes, so many different baking recipes. It's just important. And it has so much nutrients, and I would like to know how many of those nutrients we're getting based off of these tests. They also tell me who's going to stay in our breeding program and pass on their genetics, and who could go to a backyard milker who's not really worried too much about putting as much in the pail, more bang for their buck. They just want a sweet little goat that can provide their family with a little bit of milk. You can already see the difference between Willow and Tiana. So overall today, Willow's given me about 4.85 pounds of milk. Tiana this morning only gave me 0.8. So there's a really big difference. These guys are getting the same amount of feed, same amount of care. They're roughly around the same age, so there's just a really big difference between these two. Boy, almost not even enough. So you can see this holds roughly, oh, can you see right here is where it marks for 3 cups. Willow has given me 4 and then some that wouldn't fit in there. So I guess that's gonna be a treat for the dogs, but that's pretty good. Especially since this little girl isn't even going to hit her peak until around 90 days. She's only 11 days fresh. So she has a lot of time to improve and give a lot more milk. So this is really promising for her. I'm hoping that we get you a milk star because you're my favorite. And I love you and I love your babies. All of your babies, and I love you. She's such a good doe. She's one of my favorites. So I'm really hoping to get her at least a milk star this year. Now that she's done too, since her udder orifices on her teat are open, I'm just gonna give her a quick iodine dip on the ends of her teats. Maybe if I can find the other one. Oh. So you guys can see that's gonna help to actually sanitize and keep that area pretty clean while those orifices, because we've unclogged them with milking. We've opened them, which means bacteria can get up into her udder. So it's important after we're done milking that we put that iodine on to kind of sanitize the area. I'm looking for something a little bit more herbal, essential oils, all of that good stuff, with just a tiny hint of like bleach, like a drop, just enough to kind of sanitize the area. But that's what we're doing right now to protect our girls from mastitis, because even though we're done milking, her orifices would remain open for a little bit, which means bacteria could get in there. And if she were to suffer from mastitis, that could really interfere with her milk production and her ability to feed her babies. And we don't want that, do we? No, we don't. I feel like there's gonna probably be a hard cut at the end of this year with linear appraisals and us doing this milk testing. It will really tell us who has the best conformation, who has the best build for longevity. And once we get past conformation and we figure out what we're doing production-wise with milk, we really can move our program into really creating some really good self-sustaining animals, because it's kind of crazy. Tiana and Willow are on the same feed ration. They've had the same caliber of care given to them. One of them is producing quite a bit, while the other is really lacking in her production. They're getting the same of everything. So to me, that says that the doe that's taking the same resources as the doe that's producing a high quantity of milk while she isn't, means that she's not a thrifty doe. And there's a reason I might be moving her on. And it sucks, because I love my goats, and there are some foundational does here that will never leave, regardless. But there are some that, with the direction we're going, with the way that prices are rising to actually take care of livestock and to sustain a performance breed, which in turn does come down to self-sufficiency. How much feed am I giving them, and how much are they giving me in return? And you'll see a difference from doe to doe. Okay. And you can tell not nearly as much as Miss Willow. So let's see what we get. And while I seem a little down on this doe, Tiana's a sweetheart. And Tiana, honestly, every kidding has given me a doe for the last 3 years. And I will be seeing the improvements in those does, because each doe that she has is from a different sire. So we're looking to see for improvements. And I don't know, Tiana still has a lot of room to improve. She could really pump up her production. I'm not gonna call it quits on her yet, but for right now, you can tell there's a really big difference between her and Willow. So that's it. Now all I have to do is go and take this information, put it on the appropriate sheets, send it off to the lab, and the lab will let me know what my results are. But that's our first milk test. It wasn't terrible, it was a little challenging, but I'm really excited to see what our does are doing. I'm excited to start using this eventually. But we're really starting to move in the right direction that I'd like to with our Nigerian dwarf goats. So I thank you guys so much for being here with us today. If you have any questions about milk testing, I don't know if I'll be able to answer them, but you can drop them down in the comments below, because I'm sure there are a lot of people here that are watching that know a lot about milk testing and can probably answer your questions. So until next time, guys, thank you so much for being here with us during our first milk test here on Mulberry Ranch Farm. We thank you for all the time you spend with us. We hope that you're all staying safe out there and being kind to one another, and we're going to catch you all in the next one. Bye, y'all.